Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Jaggerous, and today, as you may be able to tell, it's Halloween. So I figured I would do something special related to Gwent for Halloween, and that is, look at that, pumpkin carving. We're gonna make some Gwent-themed jack-o'-lanterns. So I have all sorts of things here. I have like some bowls to put rubbish in. I've got some spoons, some scissors, some knives. I probably shouldn't flail these around. Some pens, a lino cutter. Look at this, lino cutters and handle set. Some tape, a chopping board, some designs. We're gonna do some Gwent card backs, you guys. Like, so we've got different card backs here. And some pumpkins. And I haven't carved pumpkins for a long time, and when I usually do it, I just put like, you know, a spooky face on them. So this is like more intricate. I don't know how well this is gonna work out, but I'm gonna do my best. I figured we gotta do something special. It's Halloween. So, without further ado, let's get carving. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is cut a hole in the top of my pumpkin, and the way you cut this is you wanna cut it in at an angle, such that when you take the top out, it has like a little shelf that you can sit it back into. So we'll try and do that and see how this works. This is actually much easier if you have a serrated knife. Guess who doesn't have a serrated knife? You get 10 points if you guessed me. Congratulations, 10 points for everyone. Maybe use a bigger knife. Maybe this will help. This is not gonna help, is it? Oh dear. Okay, pumpkin harder to cut than I thought. And you want to make sure this hole is big enough that you can kind of comfortably scoop out the insides. So, you know, if you're doing this at home, do that. I feel like this is turning into a pumpkin carving tutorial, but I'm not really an expert, so this is kind of a stupid idea. But yeah, so we're cutting, like you can see, in at an angle rather than straight, such that you can actually sit the top back into the pumpkin when you're done. I maybe should cut this a bit bigger. Maybe I didn't give myself enough space. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. I'm gonna have to repeat this 5 times for you guys, but that won't all be on camera. You don't have to watch me, like, hollow out 5 pumpkins. Is that it? Oh! Oh! Look at this. We have a hole. This is not big enough, but once we cut around this edge, we should have some room. You can also cut this bit off, like so. Put them into the bowl. See, we got bowls for this. So that you have like a nice flat top, and then, look at that. This guy doesn't sit very well, but you can open and shut your pumpkin. So once you've done that, the next step is to clear out the inside. So you can see here, we're going to cut round this bit basically, so that you've got a bit more room. Easy peasy. See, once you're inside, it actually cuts quite nicely. Cuts quite nicely. La 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 la. And there we go. So that's much bigger, and we can stick our hands in. This is the fun bit. Blech. Pull out all the inside. So you want to kind of try and pull some of this out, and then I've got my spoons, so I can start scooping this out. Ugh, get off my hand, get off my hand. Gross, gross. And basically you're just trying to hollow out all the flesh and the seeds. I'll probably roast these seeds actually later. Roast pumpkin seeds are yummy, and I could also make soup. And once you've kind of done that, oh, I got it on the desk. God damn it. So it's all cleaned out on the inside. You can see all of this flesh has come out. And then what you want to do is use a spoon and decide where you're going to draw your design or cut your design. So I'm going to cut mine on this nice flat kind of smooth face here. So I'm going to use this spoon and scrape out the inside edge here to make this thinner. So then it becomes easier to cut. So you create all of these curls of flesh, curl them out, thin out the inside. And then the next step, once you've done with this, is to actually wash out your pumpkin with some warm water, just to kind of clean out all the bits and have it nice and clean and ready to carve. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do it again 4 more times, because we need 5 pumpkins, and then we'll be ready to start carving some designs. And the second time around, I've actually learned it's smarter to cut the opening on the top just a little bit bigger than this one. So you can see here, much bigger, much easier to hollow out. Oh, this is so nasty. Nasty. Yeah, yummy. I'm getting seeds frickin' everywhere. You nasty. Jaggerous, you nasty. Yeah, such a left arm workout. I'm gonna be like henching this arm and like, you know, chicken leg in this arm basically. Oh dear. Okay, so this is pumpkin number 3, and I did the bigger 2 first, so hopefully these next 3 will be a little bit quicker because the pumpkins are a wee bit smaller. You know, they're only about the size of my head. It should be fine. We totally got this. I have faith. Peeling the top off of the pumpkin is really quite satisfying. Oh yeah. So pumpkin carving tip number 2. Not only is it better to cut a bigger hole in the top, it's also better to use a smaller spoon rather than a bigger spoon, because you can actually fit the small spoon inside the pumpkin, which makes scraping the insides so much easier. I wonder if there's like some rule 34 out there for pumpkin carving. Probably is. Did you know that the smell of pumpkin actually gets quite nauseating after a while? And that's what the insides of 5 pumpkins look like. I'm not looking forward to sorting the seeds out from the flesh, but if you don't want to waste it, then you can use this for cooking. So now it's time to start sorting out the designs. Okay, so the next step is to cut out the stencils and basically plan out where you want to cut out your pumpkin in order to put your design onto the pumpkin. And this is the point where you realize that the designs you first printed were much too large to actually fit on the pumpkins that you bought, so you have to go and reprint them in the right size. But this is basically the time where you can plan out your design, figure out where it's going to go, how big it's going to be, that sort of thing, and then using ideally an X-Acto knife. That would be the easiest way to cut this out perfectly. Cut out your design. I don't have an X-Acto knife. I got a pair of scissors, so I'm gonna wing it and hopefully it will come out okay. So firstly, you want to cut around your design, basically giving yourself enough space that you can tape it to your pumpkin when you want to transfer it, but not so much space that it's a huge piece of paper. So in this instance, I'm using this Skellige design, and you can see I've kind of cut out around it. And now I've got a chopping board, so what I can do is actually put this on the chopping board and use this kitchen knife as an X-Acto knife to try and cut out the design, or at least get started with the design, such that we have a nice, neat stencil. So yeah, ideally, like I say, if you have a X-Acto knife, this is going to make this a lot easier, but if you don't, then I guess you can try and do it with a pair of scissors. So as you can see here, I've managed to cut out the sail, and then I'm going to repeat that with the boat. Now, with pumpkin carving, there's actually 2 different ways you can do it. You can cut straight through the pumpkin so that you create a hole, or you can scrape off the skin and the top layer. So you don't create a full hole, but you create enough of a thinness that the light is able to shine through the flesh. And that's actually why I have this lino cutter, because that I can then use to scrape the top layer of the pumpkin. So in this step, actually what I'm doing is I'm cutting holes in the bits that I'm going to cut straight through. So I'll do that, but I'll leave the oars, because when I do the oars, I'm probably going to just scrape those rather than cut them through, because it's so close to the body of the ship. Okay, so there we go. I have all of my designs cut out, as you can see, for the different factions. I've got one for each faction, and these are then going to be drawn onto the pumpkins using these stencils. Effectively, all you need to do is get your pumpkin. Here's one I have here. Get some design, decide where on the pumpkin you'd like the design to go. Sellotape, like so. So find the position of the design, probably around here, looks pretty good, I think. And tape this on so that it's nice and attached. And then using a pen, I'm going to draw my design onto the pumpkin so I know where to cut. So hindsight is 50-50, and I kind of realized that my stencils are in fact way too small. So I just ended up freehanding a design onto the pumpkins instead to match the design. So printing these stencils was a complete waste of time, but if you suck at drawing, then that is the way to do it. But it turns out, like, I feel like this looks pretty decent. So here is the Nilfgaard pumpkin. I'm wondering if this design is a little bit too big, but considering it was going to be this big, I feel like bigger is better, right? This is pretty fancy. So then we still have to do Northern Realms and Scoia'tael. So those are the next 2. Okay, so we have our Scoia'tael pumpkin design drawn on, which means last but not least is the Northern Realms pumpkin. And last but not least, we have our Northern Realms pumpkin. So that's all of the designs drawn. It's now time to start carving these out. Certain areas I'm going to use the lino cutters and basically just take off the top layer, like in the circle on the Nilfgaard pumpkin, for example, and the oars on the Skellige pumpkin, but everything else I'll actually cut out. I bought a pumpkin carving kit. I probably should have used this earlier. It's got like a scoop in it and stuff. But this has a small serrated blade, and that actually makes carving pumpkins a lot easier than using a smooth blade because you have a lot more control over what you're actually doing. Can I even open this? Jesus Christ. I hate packaging. It just makes me look inept. Like, look at me. Look at me trying to open this packaging. Nope. It's just not happening. Wait, I've got scissors. Maybe I should have just used the scissors. That probably would have been, like, more sensible. There we go. Did it. Yeah, so inside here, as well as having some, like, stencils, I guess you could have used. See, stencils are totally a thing in pumpkins. I didn't make that up just because I messed up. We have a little serrated blade you can see here, so I'm going to be using this along with my knife, along with my lino cutter, which, if you guys are unsure of what it is, basically you have like a handle, like so, and then you have a bunch of ends. And the way this kind of works is you slot an end into the handle, and this has like a kind of little kind of scoop, and then you can scrape this along the surface of the pumpkin, and that allows you to remove the insides without necessarily removing the cutting all the way through the pumpkin. So let's get started, shall we? So there you have it, 1 down and 4 to go. So what's actually quite handy about this kit is it also comes with a poker, which means if you want to poke out your sections, you can use that, and it does quite a good job of pushing them in. I'm just pushing them into the pumpkin. You could also push them out. But this pumpkin's actually quite thick, and so this has been the hardest one to cut so far. I might actually thin out the inside wall a little bit more once I'm done, just to make sure that enough light comes out and that you get a good idea of the design. You can see I've cut out this middle one here, and I'm working on this one, but with these bits still to do. Okay, so here we have our scoia'tael design now nicely carved into the pumpkin. So 3 left to go. This is actually the first design I'm going to be using this tool on. This is my lino cutter, because the circle in the middle of Nilfgaard is actually just a ring, it's not a full circle. And what this tool will do is hopefully, there we go, nice and easily, it just slots underneath the flesh. And you can see here, I'm basically picking off, if I hold this up for you, the flesh into a circle pattern without actually cutting all the way through the pumpkin, which will allow me to then leave the center circle. Because if I cut this, you know, there's no way I can have a levitating center circle here in the design. So instead, we've got these lino tools, and these are kind of just like woodworking tools, basically, but for linoleum, which is like flooring, because people use them for printing. So what I'm doing, hopefully you can see this, is just basically, whoops, out goes the end, taking away the top surface layer of the pumpkin without actually cutting right the way through it. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but we can neaten it out once we're done. And this should hopefully give us a nice glow with this ring without necessarily losing the middle circle. I do need to make it neater, but for a first pass, you can kind of see the effect there. Okay guys, so there we go. That is the Nilfgaard pumpkin all carved out. That was actually a really fun one. I really like the effect with this ring. I'm really hoping it does glow and that the pumpkin inside is thin enough. But for now, let's get the last 2 pumpkins carved. So I'm on the Skellige pumpkin now, and this is actually the bit I'm really nervous about, is his face, because he's got this open mouth, and so you need to be a little bit careful with things like that when you're carving intricacies, that you don't mess it up. So I'm just a little bit wary of basically how I cut this and kind of what happens as we slice out his face of the boat on the Skellige card back. So wish me luck. Oh my, so that was actually quite tricky, but I think it's come out pretty decent. You can see his mouth there. It hasn't fallen in, which I was worried about. And hopefully it translates really well when it comes to lighting these pumpkins and seeing their full design. So there we go. That is the oars done. That is Skellige pumpkin done. And last but not least, we have to do Monsters pumpkin. So here is Monster's pumpkin. You can see here where I drew the design previously a little bit, but then I redrew it here a bit bigger because I think it's going to be better and you'll get more light through it. It should look better. These were like the freehand ones. I just copied images. Obviously I have the sheets with the design, so I knew more or less what they looked like. So we'll just carve this one out and then that is the set done. Okay guys, so there we go. That is the monsters design done. The last thing to do really is to wash out these pumpkins and clean up the edges basically. Some people recommend sanding them. I don't have sandpaper, so that's not going to happen. Alternatively, some people recommend washing it and then using some soap, which will clean out the pumpkin and make them last longer, your jack-o'-lanterns. So if you want your jack-o'-lanterns to last longer, soap. And also some people recommend putting like Vaseline along these cut edges. You know, if you want to lube up your pumpkin. Don't know why you do that, but that's something that you can do. But for me, I'm just going to go wash them out, tidy up, and then we'll wait till it gets dark and see how these babies have turned out. So there you have it. That somehow miraculously kind of sort of turned out okay. I'm really pleased actually. I didn't expect it to go as well as it did. I actually think the whole set together looked really good. Which one is your favorite? You know, let me know that in the comments below. I think my favorite one, it's probably actually the Northern Realms one. It has a really nice glow to the pumpkin. Like, the pumpkin is thin enough that it glows as an orange ball, and then the symbol looks really, really good. Whereas the Nilfgaard one, I think it needs a brighter light. And you'll notice that with Nilfgaard and Squirtle, the pumpkins are a bit thicker, so they don't glow in that kind of orange orb kind of way, as well as the other ones. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the whole thing. Happy Halloween. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys next time with another video. We've got the new Gwent event coming out for Halloween, so I'll be playing that. And a new patch means new decks, means new videos. Yay! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, maybe subscribe. And yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Bye!